You're listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems.
Welcome to NAPSN. I am Natalie Cruz. I'm one of the co-directors of NAPSN, and I'm also a writer, educator, and food systems professional who specializes in decolonized food work. I'm joining you this evening from New York City. The North American Food Systems Network is a professional association of people working to strengthen local and regional food systems. We encourage you to join NAPSN if you value a diverse, well-informed, place-based workforce at the helm of this critical change work. We also want to acknowledge this. Many of the organizations and agencies that do the work of strengthening their local food systems, including farmers, are currently under political duress. Funding cuts to sustainable agriculture and food access programs threaten our profession and America's overall food security. It is with determination that we continue to host the series so that more and more people understand how essential these roles are to the vitality of local economies, the health of communities, and the responsible care of Earth's natural resources. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the hosts of this episode, Jeffrey Shu, and our visiting co-host from Annabelle's Grocery, Trisha Bougelet.
Thanks, Natalie, and thank you all for joining us for the fourth and final episode of the 10th season of Finding Your Future in Food Systems. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this is a series produced and hosted by students to help emerging professionals and others navigate the wide range of quickly evolving career opportunities in community food systems work. My name is Jeffrey, and I am a third-year food science and global development student here at Cornell University and a student staff member for NAFSN. We are so fortunate to be joined today by Trisha, the current teaching assistant who, just like Isla from episode 3, also served as the purchasing coordinator for Annabelle's Grocery. For a bit of background, Annabelle's Grocery is a student-run store on Cornell's campus and serves as the practicum for the class AEM 3385, Social Entrepreneurship Practicum. Finding Your Future in Food Systems featured Annabelle's Grocery and Trisha in one of our long form episodes, so be sure to check that out on our website. And just like NAFSA, Annabelle's Grocery is a project of the Center for Transformative Action located right here in Ithaca, New York. And I'll turn it over to Trisha to introduce herself.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's lovely to be here. My name is Trisha, and I'm an undergraduate senior here at Cornell studying environment and sustainability. And like Jeffrey mentioned, I've been involved with Annabelle's Grocery for the past 3 years. It's great to be here with Kim, Natalie, our speakers, and everyone in attendance. It's also very encouraging that more than 169 people have registered for this event today. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants later this week by email. Now, before we get started, we'd like to sincerely thank our episode sponsor, the Cornell chapter of Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences, otherwise known as MANRS. The chapter aims to provide networking, educational, and career preparatory events for students from all backgrounds interested in food systems and agriculture. As many viewers may remember, Cornell Manners has partnered with Finding Your Future in Food Systems since Season 9, and we are so fortunate to be able to continue to collaborate with the chapter through Season 10.
We'd also like to acknowledge and appreciate our full year sponsors, Grapevine Local Food Marketing, Roots of Change, and Harrisdale Homestead.
It's great to see so many people in attendance, and we encourage you to keep your video on if you choose. For our speakers to have better understanding of who is present with us today, please add to the chat your name, your location, and areas of interest in food systems work. If you are currently affiliated with a food systems organization, institution, or agency, please add that as well. NAFSN is all about professional networking, so please take advantage of this opportunity to meet and connect with others through the chat today. Throughout the webinar, we'd also like to ask you to write your questions of our guest speakers in the chat. Jeffrey will curate these questions for you during a Q&A with each speaker.
NAFSN is headquartered in Ithaca, New York, which is located on the traditional homelands of the Gayakono, and we offer this land acknowledgement. We have three guest speakers with us here today. We'll begin our conversations with Dr. Rachel Brice from Land for Good. We will continue our conversation with Tommy Bass from Montana State University Extension, and finally wrap up our conversation with Janel Hutchison from the Food Finance Institute of the University of Wisconsin. It is a pleasure to meet you all, and we are so excited to get started. And lastly, please remember to put any questions that you may have for our speakers into the chat, and we will curate them for you after each speaker presents.
Our first speaker for the evening is Dr. Rachel Brice. Rachel joined Land for Good in 2022. As part of the leadership team, Rachel leads on development strategy and works closely with the rest of the team on the organization's overall strategic direction. Her experience includes program development and evaluation, adult and youth education, and grant writing. Prior to Land for Good, Rachel directed the CNS Grocers Workplace Organic Gardens project, which provides company land, education, and technical support to CNS employees who wish to garden at work. Rachel holds a master's and PhD in environmental studies. Her dissertation explored nonprofit resilience to environmental turbulence, such as from pandemics like COVID-19. Rachel enjoys gardening and cooking and is learning to tend apples and keep bees. Without further ado, please take it away, Rachel.
Thanks so much, Trisha, and thanks to NAFSN and the sponsors for hosting. I'm really pleased to be with you all this evening and to have a chance to speak a little bit about Land for Good and about my work there. We're easy to find online, landforgood.org, and I would just encourage you to take a look through our educational resources, which are freely available to anyone who's interested. And that's also a good place, as well as our social media, to look for future employment opportunities. So why Land for Good? New England is losing about 19 acres of farmland every day to development and other pressures. At the same time, we have thousands of young people who want to farm, but either can't find or can't afford land, as well as thousands of retiring farmers who don't have a succession or retirement plan. Land for Good exists to address this challenge. Our mission is to expand secure farmland access, tenure, and transfer across New England with the ultimate goal of keeping farmland in active agriculture and keeping farmers on the land. So we do that by working directly with three main groups. First, we work with farm seekers, providing one-on-one coaching and technical assistance, helping them find farmland that suits their farming ideas and negotiate fair agreements for getting on that land. Second, we also work with retiring farmers, helping them create succession plans for their farming business and find ways to make sure that their farmland stays active in the agricultural sector in New England. These cases can be really quite complex and complicated because in addition to the logistical complications of transferring a business, there's also all of the emotional and potentially family considerations. Sometimes those retirement cases go on for literally years. And then our third sort of main direct service area is working one-on-one with landowners, helping them understand their options in terms of making their land available for agriculture and helping to connect them with farmers who are looking for opportunities to find. So those are our direct service branches. In addition to direct service, we also build sector capacity. So we create freely available resources and tools that farmers, landowners, and other service providers can use. We train and coach organizations, other nonprofits doing this work nationwide to help them build and develop their skills in farmland access support. And so at Land for Good, my role is actually Director of Development and Grants. In the nonprofit world, development means fundraising, essentially, and my job is to make sure that Land for Good has the financial resources to do its work by securing grants and cultivating relationships with individual donors. I lead fundraising strategy across foundation grants, government funding, and working with individual donors, and I'm currently building out our individual donor program. So To segue into a little bit more about how I got here, I've been at Land for Good, as Jeffrey mentioned, a little over 4 years. I originally came on as program coordinator, doing direct service for clients in New Hampshire, where I live, helping farmers and landowners work through some of those land access and transfer challenges one-on-one. It became clear pretty quickly that I had both interest and skill in development related work. So I started picking that up and basically built the role as I went. The job didn't exist before me. It was my first real experience with fundraising, and I literally wrote my current job description. Most of what I know about development, I learned on the job just through doing it and talking to people who have experience in the field, and then, of course, reading everything I could get my hands on. My PhD is in environmental studies, and my dissertation examined specifically how food sovereignty organizations in the Northeast maintained resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. So while it's tangentially related to my current work, in the process, I learned quite a bit about how nonprofit organizations are structured and how they behave under pressure. That grounding serves me directly in my current role. And then, in addition to the experience they mentioned in the introduction, I have also worked as a farm worker directly on farms with my hands in the dirt. And I have expertise in both program design and program evaluation. So that combination of skills turns out to be genuinely useful in a senior nonprofit role, even though the path to get here wasn't linear. And so then that brings me to my advice and sort of closing words to offer you. There, if you're interested in nonprofit work, there really are a lot of paths into the sector, from formal nonprofit management all the way through just picking up bits and pieces as you go. And so I would just say at your stage, the most useful thing I think you can do is direct your energy toward work that you care about and pay attention to what you're actually good at. Notice where those two things overlap, because sometimes you can build an entire career out of that combination of things. So at this point, happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Brice. A couple questions just to build off of what you were saying about, like you had mentioned that you had some experience in program evaluation. So, what advice do you have for aspiring food systems professionals who are interested in entering a career centered around farmland protection and farmland access? And what skills do you think would be most valuable for them to cultivate?
That's a good question, Jeffrey, and a little challenging just because the field itself is so broad and there are a lot of ways to tie in. I do think, um, of course, this is my opinion, but I also think it's true that there's a lot of value in having direct experience with farming. Um, at bare minimum for a season, because if your intention is to work to support farmers and others working in the food system, having at least a little bit of lived experience so that you can connect at that level, I think is really important. And then depending on what kind of thing you're interested in the sector, that could inform the skills that you try to build. So if you're interested in providing TA to farmers or other food producers, having some educational skills is a useful thing to pick up. If you already know you're interested in sort of organizational management, it actually is quite useful to take a nonprofit accounting class. So it all just depends on the sorts of, like, the avenue that you're trying to come into it from.
Understood. Yeah, thank you. Next question that we have here is, with your background in nonprofit resilience, how are you and the Land for Good nonprofit as a whole navigating the current era of constantly changing landscapes? So, talking about climate change, the federal policy, the social unrest, how are you sort of navigating that terrain?
Yeah, that's an excellent and important question. I think essentially we're navigating it a day at a time. Um, and and truly, honestly, leaning into our values as an organization. Um, there are places and ways in which organizational value statements can become sort of empty or wallpaper. If they're used for decision making, they can really help when things feel uncertain. Because if, as our sort of geopolitical environmental context becomes increasingly turbulent and unpredictable, having a set of values that you use to make decisions can help you navigate that path much more so than trying to plan for all contingencies because that's impossible. Um, and then there is also some sort of risk management discussion that I think is necessary. How much personal and organizational risk are you willing to take, for example, when it comes to standing up against fascism? And those are real conversations because when it comes to your job and your colleague's job, um, it's your livelihood in addition to all of the people that you're trying to support with your work.
Yeah, thank you. And then this last question that I have here, and we encourage anyone in the audience to also ask any questions that you may have for Dr. Brice too. Um, since you currently work at sort of that larger, overarching administrative role, how do you translate the legal jargon of federal and state policy initiative, as well as in your expertise, funding opportunities, um, to like local level farmer and farm development?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think you might be asking how do we translate really complex legal situations to a lay audience? Is that the question?
Yes, and also how do you like how do you apply, like when you're searching for these funding opportunities, how are you taking an individual situation that might be very centered towards a specific community and applying that to some of these larger grants, like some of these very large USDA grants that are hundreds of
Or
thousands of dollars or
yeah, I think it has really helped me to be clear about what is the purpose for any one particular thing that I'm writing or trying to communicate to somebody. Getting clear on the one central purpose for any particular application, like I'm seeking this money because I want to be able to assist this particular farming community in Maine. Like if I'm clear on that purpose, then everything else, if I start feeling like me, I can get off track. Having a clear purpose, similar to having clear values, can help me reorient. If you're not clear on your purpose, anything you say, it doesn't matter how well worded, is going to land flat. So purpose has to be first.
and where do you see your role or the trajectory for Land for Good in the future 5, 10 years?
I think I'll speak to Land for Good as an organization. We are sort of painfully aware of the literal tight timeline of farmland loss in New England because of our aging farmer population. And so while white supremacy culture sort of brings with it this sort of false sense of urgency that gets everybody sort of in this weird busy, I can't even talk to you and have a relationship, we see that there is a genuine sense of urgency in terms of preventing the loss of farmland out of agriculture. And so we're turning our attention even more sort of intensely toward trying to reach that landowner and retiring farmer audience just because we see them as such a crucial piece of this farmland access puzzle.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and for offering your perspective and taking some time to answer some of our questions. If folks have any other questions for Dr. Brice, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat for her. And in the meantime, I will turn it back over to Trisha to introduce our next speaker.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you, Dr. Brice. Our second speaker is Tommy Bass. Tommy is the Livestock Environment and Sustainability Specialist with Montana State Extension. He provides education and technical assistance to producers, agri-food businesses, governmental and non-governmental organizations, and other stakeholders on topics at the nexus of livestock and poultry environmental management, local and regional livestock and meat supply chain performance, and agri-food emergency preparedness. Some topics of recent focus include agri-food waste composting, agronomic use of organic agri-food wastes, beef to school supply chains, and food safety for small-scale meat processors. In addition, Tommy is a consultant for the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service during animal disease outbreaks, and he holds a leadership position in the National Extension Disaster Education Network. His career began with cooperative extension at the University of Georgia, and he joined Montana State University in 2007. He has since worked on projects across North America. Over his career, Tommy's work has expanded from water quality and conservation to addressing broader issues across local and regional food systems. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tommy.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to pop in a minute and try and get my screen shared correctly. All right, good afternoon or good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm really pleased to speak with everybody. I just have a few slides here for some nuts and bolts. Over the last 25, 26 years, I've worked as an extension educator. And even though I've had specific titles to my program or a specific job title, I've been privileged to have great latitude to chase interesting ideas and serve the needs in my areas of expertise and develop new areas of expertise, but serve the needs of many different types of populations. A lot of these bullet points here were in the introduction, so I'm going to bump on through. There we go. So for those of you who might not be familiar with extension with a capital E, it's one of the pillars of the tripartite mission of our nation's land-grant universities. So that would be often a primary state university. Many historically Black colleges and universities started in the land-grant system, as well as the most recent Land Grant Act that made land-grant colleges within many indigenous communities on reservations across the nation. So all of these land-grant universities teach, do research, and do outreach. And so extension is part of that triple mission. What we do is provide evidence-based outreach and technical assistance, conduct applied and demonstrated research. I get to work across my entire state. I'm based in Bozeman on campus, but I serve every county and reservation in the state. I get to work across the region and also nationally with different collaborations. And, you know, one thing that keeps me stimulated is the ability to apply systems thinking and do this interdisciplinary work where my original training comes from animal agriculture, but I've become essentially an environmental scientist. And then over the years, working with environmental issues within livestock and poultry production, I've really got introduced to be able to work with those local and regional level niche and specialty producers and their supply chains. And the image here is just something for fun, a pleasant piece of trivia. This is a pound of ground beef from a collaborator and client of mine. Big Sky High School in Missoula County, Montana, has a state-inspected meat processing plant as part of their FFA program and student farm at a high school. It does have 2 full-time adult employees. Otherwise, the students work through the whole process to sell retail ready meat. And I've worked with them on their HACCP or food safety program and also designed their waste composting system for the farm and the meat plant. Also in that introduction, and thank you very much, Tricia. My three primary buckets or areas of work, education, and applied research were mentioned. And I present it here in a Venn diagram because I still work across all scales of animal agriculture with issues around water quality and environmental stewardship in general. I work across all scales of agriculture regarding agri-food disaster and emergency preparedness. For example, that might be something larger and medium to long term, like doing education around shifting supply chains during a pandemic, like COVID-19. And we continue to work on that over 3 or 4 years. Also, during, say, a natural disaster, or even back to the COVID example, local regional food systems are going to have their own needs for assistance, education, technical assistance, that is. But also, they proved to play a unique role when our continental and national food supply chains were crashing. And really, it was awesome to see a lot of our local food system folks pivot a little bit and serve that gap. And I hope they're still benefiting from that. And so finally, just that kind of leads into my work with local regional meat supply chains. So very practically, my path, I grew up in rural Georgia, went to the University of Georgia and started studying animal science. And very quickly, through undergrad research experiences and whatnot, my interest shifted from the lab to something more in the field and community oriented. And after that, I came out to Montana the first time, a little bit of adventure and a lot of education. And I finished my master's degree in ag education with an adult and extension ed emphasis. And really, that helped me start to understand theories and philosophies around adult learning and lifelong learning, assessing needs in different populations, and then also building confidence and speaking and teaching to adult audiences, which feels really weird when you're 22, 23, and you're a very young person and you're learning, how to teach and listen and teach, to adults of all ages. So really over the last 25 years, it's been building new and interesting areas of expertise and building a career. And this image here, I just wanted to share is just a really cool aspect of having a job like I do. I was invited to speak at the Northwest Indigenous Food Sovereignty Summit a year and a half ago. And my wife was on sabbatical that year, and we had elected to homeschool our 7th grade son at the time to have flexibility for travel and such. So I took Sam with me to this food summit on the Coeur d'Alene Reservation in northern Idaho. And the event was also co-hosted by the neighboring Nez Perce tribe. But a friend of mine said, well, heck, Sam doesn't have to hang out around the hotel and do his online and homeschool stuff. We have a whole youth track of built around Indigenous food knowledge and practices. The bus leaves in 30 minutes. Put Sam on that bus. So that's my son, Sam, processing steelhead with a group of Nez Perce and Coeur d'Alene youth through the Indigenous 4-H program in Idaho. And just it was a wonderful experience. And it was great that from my position, I was able to share that with Sam through this valuable collaboration and relationship with Indigenous colleagues. So why food systems work? I just find it incredibly intellectually stimulating because of the complexity. And I mentioned interdisciplinarity earlier. It's just, yeah, it brings about intellectual challenges. This is based in problem solving with clients one-on-one or in small groups or amongst my colleagues to, solve a problem. And then as a state level extension specialist, working locally in my state, regionally, nationally, um, those relationships I build with other folks, whether within extension or within professional organizations, like we're joining around one here today, just really strengthened by those relationships and networks. And in our divisive or time of division that we're all well aware of, it's heartening to find some common values around food. And I guess my soul really needs that right now. And it's nice to feel like, okay, on some days and in some ways, we're not all that far apart, at least around certain issues, right? Um, and then a little bit on the concern side of things, I continue to be concerned about disparities and the consumer access to the types of foods we or different consumer populations want and need. And, it's easy for me to talk about cool things like local grass-fed organic beef, but my family's privileged to be able to go afford that at the food co-op, right? Or buy it directly from a rancher friend or client. And that's not the case for most Americans, right? So that's something that I want to continue to keep in mind and work towards a more egalitarian set of nested food systems in the US. So I'll have no idea where I am on time, but I'm going to quit talking. And I'm going to leave up my contact information here for a couple minutes in case anybody wants to, follow up or ask questions, after this event. I will mention I saw, folks popping in and sharing where they're from, and it was great to see that geographic diversity. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, University of Georgia, that's where I got started, and Colorado State University. I've got 4 active projects with food systems colleagues there right now. Cornell, I have projects with right now. So at any rate, it's really cool to see where all of you are joining from. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So first question that we have here is really digging into what you had mentioned earlier about when local food system stakeholders really had to step up when some of the larger players cracked or weren't able to handle the pressure from environmental challenges or from the pandemic. So how, in your role, how are you sort of encouraging local stakeholders or local food systems professionals to continue to stay engaged after, I guess, after the food system has recovered from some of these shocks?
Yeah. Well, I would say I'll address the folks that fell through the cracks first, the ones that were not continually engaged with, or maybe they've moved on to something else. In that COVID example, entities in the local regional food system, from production to retail, if they could pivot away from that, from say culinary markets and places like that where they might have been heavily invested, but of course the restaurants closing down, right? And people were being cautious and staying home. Otherwise, folks that could pivot to different sorts of marketing channels did very well. And they were able to build, brand equity or farm equity or business equity in that time. So some that we've stayed in touch with, they might be serving as mentors to this next post-COVID generation of agri-food entrepreneurs. Others are growing and seek continued education and technical assistance. So we've been lucky to stay engaged in that way. So I'll cut that answer off there, a little added extra, but hopefully I answered the main part too.
Yeah, thank you. We also have another question in the chat from, I believe, Keisha. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. How have you been able to connect with indigenous communities as maybe a non-indigenous individual?
Yeah, excellent question. And I was having this discussion with a Cree colleague of mine recently, because I was at we were having this discussion, and I just said, often I am conflicted about when and how to reach out and when to wait in the wings, right? And we work within the same organization, but she is an extension agent on one of our 7 reservations. And she said, Tommy, you don't have to make it weird. Just come. Come, give me a call. We talk all the time. Or if you're dealing with someone who you haven't really met yet and don't have a relationship with, just make that introduction. If you're in the area, ask if you can come visit and better understand the context in which their food system challenges and opportunities exist. So that's a recent little personal anecdote. We have a lot of overlap with indigenous food organizations or indigenous ag education organizations through Montana State. So we have IAC based right here in the state of Montana, which is a national organization, the Intertribal Agricultural Council. My institution has federally recognized tribal extension programs that are part of our network with Montana State University Extension. And once I started making friends and colleagues in this, population across the state, it just grew and grew. So I think with any group you work with, whether there's any defining characteristic about their heritage or their life experience, I would just encourage everybody to really listen more than you talk. And like my friend said, you don't have to make it weird. You can ask questions where you don't understand, and there are polite ways to do that, right? I would say with all sorts of folks I've worked with, don't offer to do something if you can't commit and see it through, or see it to a point of handoff, or see it to a point where you all agree that, hey, this was a problem we just couldn't solve right now, maybe next time, right? But just don't flake out, don't get distracted, especially when you come from a culture with more privilege in many ways and you're going to work in another population.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I do have one more question, but I see that we are a little short on time,
Yeah.
so I will add that to the chat. It's about career development. But beyond that, I will turn it back to Trisha to introduce our final speaker.
Thank you, Jeffrey and Tommy. Our third speaker is Janel Hutchison. Janel is a passionate professional committed to building strong, resilient, and sustainable communities. With more than 15 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, she has worked across a wide range of community-based programs, including art, education, food systems, and entrepreneurship. In her current role at the Food Finance Institute, Janel is continually inspired by the passion, ingenuity, and dedication that food-focused entrepreneurs bring to their work and their communities. She enjoys connecting businesses with supportive training and resources, as well as fostering relationships with partner organizations. Prior to joining FFI, Janel had a professional ballet career spanning more than 15 years, during which she worked as a performing artist while also leading community outreach initiatives. While earning her Master of Science in Human Ecology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, she worked with the Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition, sparking her passion for food systems work and ultimately leading to her role at FFI. I will turn it over to Janel now.
Well, thank you, Trisha. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. One moment. Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Janel Hutchison. I'm the Program and Partnerships Coordinator at the Food Finance Institute. And I'm really excited just to share a bit with you about what I do at the Food Finance Institute, what the FFI does within this food systems space, and how I entered this food systems career, which you may have gathered was not something that I always thought would be part of my career journey. Okay. So first, a bit about the Food Finance Institute. FFI is an organization. We are housed within the universities of Wisconsin. We provide training, coaching, consulting to help food and farm businesses achieve profitability, growth, and financial resilience. We are a small but mighty growing team of 10 that has a diverse breadth of experience in working across the food system in all sorts of different capacities, but our expertise is very much grounded in finance. So we offer financial skills and strategies that food-focused businesses need in order to sustain their business, in order to provide for their families, and ultimately to contribute to their communities. And so this ultimately links to our vision of a world where food and farm businesses anchor vibrant communities and a thriving planet. Okay, so, oops, sorry, go back. All right. So here are a few of the core ways that we support food and farm businesses that we work with. We help entrepreneurs build financial skills, develop viable sustainable business models, and access capital. Our real goal is to help food and farm businesses achieve profitability and growth, but we also are looking for resilience. We want these businesses to be able to weather change and to be able to continue serving their communities. Ultimately, the work we do helps businesses not only succeed financially, but also catalyze positive impact in the communities that they are rooted. Okay, so a little snapshot of our impact. This is some work that we've done. These numbers are from 2015 to 2025. So we've added to these numbers now that we're in 2026. So we have trained more than 1,500 entrepreneurs across 49 states, DC and Puerto Rico. And, you know, if you're from Idaho, we're looking for someone from Idaho so we can round out that 50th state. But yeah, we are really proud of the work that we've been able to do in meeting different food and farm entrepreneurs within our training programs and within our consulting and technical assistance. We also have a really deep consultant network. We have a consultant training program that we've been running since FFI was founded. This really helps us deepen our impact across the nation by training food and farm business consultants in the types of deep finance knowledge and tools that they need to help their food and farm business clients. We also have various grant programs that we are able to use to offer training and technical assistance at free or reduced cost for entrepreneurs. And then that capital infusion number stems directly from our group of fellows, which is a business accelerator program that is one of those grant funded programs that we are able to offer. You know, and really that's a number that doesn't even, you know, capture the full breadth of capital infusion, I'm sure, that we've been able to help businesses achieve. Okay, so a bit about my role at the Food Finance Institute. I am not a finance expert. This is not my background, although I like to think I've learned a bit about finance over the 3 years that I've spent with FFI. I consider myself a generalist with expertise rooted in program development, project management, client relations, and partnership building. Much of my work is about relationships. I love that my job requires that I work closely with every person on our team that you'll see in this photo. I'm often the one coordinating schedules and pulling together different tech components of our trainings, building workflows, writing scopes of work. I'm behind the scenes, making sure that all the different elements of our trainings, consultings, and grant-funded programs are ready for delivery, both for our FFI staff and for our program participants. To my delight, I get to interact with our food and farm businesses regularly. I'm often the first person they interact with when they reach out to FFI. I get to hear their stories, their passion for what they do, and a bit about their core needs or challenges. I connect entrepreneurs and consultants to the appropriate resources, whether that be one of our FFI team members or programs, or a partner of ours as a referral. In addition to building relationships and connections, I work to strengthen our programs by coordinating program reviews and evaluation. I build the infrastructure for our programs. And ultimately, my favorite part of my job is the collaboration I get to do with our team, whether that be our internal team or also our work with our network of food and farm business partners. Okay, so this was mentioned in my intro, but prior to joining the Food Finance Institute, I did have a about 15-year professional ballet dancing career. Food systems is not where I began, but I am so glad that it's somewhere that I've ended up. The majority of my career was spent dancing with Milwaukee Ballet. That is what brought me to the state of Wisconsin, which I have grown to love and call home. I'm originally from Washington State. I had a dream from a young age of dancing professionally, and I'm incredibly grateful for the years I was able to do so. Dance is a passion of mine. It always will be. With that said, I knew that I didn't want to dance forever. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't. It's not a career you do forever. So I started to think about what I wanted to do next. And in 2018, I made the decision to leave Milwaukee Ballet and go back to school at UW-Madison to pursue my education. I first got my bachelor's degree, then went on to get my master's degree, which ultimately opened up a career for me in food systems work. And I'll share more about that soon. First, a little bit about my dance career. When I was reflecting on what I wanted to do after dance, I realized that the thing I really loved about ballet wasn't just that really incredible feeling you get when you're performing, which, truly is unlike anything else. It's, performing in front of thousands of people is a huge adrenaline rush, but it's fleeting. It doesn't last. And so when I was, thinking more deeply about, what it is that I loved about this career, I realized I loved the opportunities it afforded me to build community and connection. I was, afforded various opportunities to engage in community outreach, most notably my involvement in leading dance programming for people with disabilities. I was incredibly inspired by the power of dance to bring joy and a strong sense of community and belonging. So this is what inspired me to go back to school. With that interest in learning more about community well-being and what it takes to build vibrant, flourishing communities. Okay, and so this led me to UW-Madison, where I got my bachelor's in community and environmental sociology. And I graduated that in 2021, right in the heart of the pandemic. And so I thought, what better thing than just to continue on and get a master's, which is where I got my master's in human ecology. I was able to work as a project assistant with the Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition. So this was my intro to food systems work. I worked on a project that they were doing called the Tribal Elder Food Box Program, where they provide Indigenous culturally relevant food to tribal elders across the Midwest, the Great Lakes region. And, I really got to experience firsthand how food can be so central to community and the building of that community. So then I saw a job opened up at the Food Finance Institute, and the Food Finance Institute actually worked with the Intertribal Food Coalition. And so there was a really natural connection there. These are just a few photos of the work that we've done at FFI, of our team, of our businesses that we've worked with. A lot of people don't associate finance with fun, but I think we do a pretty good job of having some fun at our jobs. I'd say I love the energy that food and farm entrepreneurs bring to their work. The entrepreneurs we work with, they are innovators, creators, artists, builders. Their passion, expertise, and love for feeding people is truly what fuels what I do. And I'm so honored to have a place in this profession. Okay, I'm going to finish off with just a couple of photos of my boys. They are about the same age in this photos, but they are actually 2 years apart. The oldest on the left is almost 3, and my younger one is almost 1. I had both Everett and Robin during my time working with the Food Finance Institute. So the past 3 years have been a deep time of self-discovery and transition for me, both personally and professionally. So I guess my advice to you all would be that it's never too late to dive into something new or to enter a space that's unfamiliar to you. I really knew nothing about finance when I began my work at FFI, and I had a very limited breadth of experience in food systems work in general. But this community has supported me and nurtured my growth along the way. Food systems work needs all types of people and skill sets and backgrounds. So even if you feel like you have a lot to learn, or if your path takes you in a different direction than you had planned, know that you're in good company. Give yourself grace, keep an open mind to where the next open door might lead you. And finally, I'm just going to do a shout out to an upcoming program. Maybe you want to learn more about the finance components of food and farm businesses. And I did mention that consultant training that we offer at FFI. This could be a really great fit for you if you are working with food and farm clients, or you want to start working with them to help them build financially resilient businesses. There is a link to learn more on our webpage there. And I will finish just with this slide with my contact information too. I'd love to hear from you. You're welcome to email me anytime.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we have time for one really quick question. In relation to your last slide, we were wondering if you could expand a little bit more on how you adequately balance, or navigate that work-life balance.
Yeah. Oh, work-life balance. I think it can be hard, especially when your work is something that you're passionate about and that your family is also something that you are really passionate about. But I think for me, it's all about working with people that value that work-life balance. And I feel very fortunate within my role at FFI that I have really my whole team is accepting of all the different roles that we play as humans, because in order to be really good professionals, I think that we need to foster the many different sides of ourselves, including, for me, the new mother that I am, the artist, and having dance still part of my life. I do an occasional project here and there. And then, also, of course, doing this food systems work is very important. So I really feel thankful that my team is supportive and flexible with me when I need some flexibility.
All right. Well, thank you very much. There are a couple questions in the chat. There's one from Ev, and then Jackie also has another question about navigating the link. But thank you very much for your time. And thank you to all the speakers for taking the time to share their expertise with us. And let us transition into the wrap-up session. So again, we wanted to extend a big thank you once again to everybody who participated in this episode, and especially our speakers for taking the time to share a little bit about their experience and answer a lot of our questions during this fourth and final episode of our 10th season. The speaker's contact information shown here will be included along with a recording and an email sent to you, so please keep an eye out for that. And as I mentioned in the last episode and at the beginning of this episode, we are so excited to feature new long-form episodes for the 10th season and also in the upcoming 11th season. These lengthier episodes are pre-recorded with the goal of exploring various sectors of the food system in greater depth. In our first episode, I was fortunate enough to join Mr. John Babadara over Zoom to discuss his motivations for starting a social enterprise in Nigeria, Tomatrix. In our second episode, I spoke with our current co-host, Trisha, who serves as the teaching assistant of Annabelle's Grocery in person at Annabelle Taylor Hall here on campus, about some of the challenges and opportunities in working with college students. And our latest episode features Nick Fahrenfelder, the founder and head of Swiss Plant-Based Foods in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And with him, I discussed his passion, the logistics, as well as the future of plant-based alternatives focused around vegan cheese production in a very fruitful conversation. So please be sure to check out these episodes on the NAFSN website, the YouTube page, or we will also be sending links for those out later as well.
And to close, we'd like to surprise one participant who attended this live session of Finding Your Future in Food Systems episode with a complimentary NAFSN membership. Congratulations to Kimora Jackson for being randomly selected from among the 169 registrants to receive a NAFSN annual membership this week.
And thank you for joining us tonight. This is the fourth and final episode of our 10th season. This season has really flown by, so we'd like to give a special shout out and thank you again to all of our sponsors and, of course, to you, our listener. This program would not have been possible without your support and participation. We at NAFSN are always looking for ways to better tailor our programming to suit your needs. So Kim Hines, one of our co-directors, is going to share a link in the chat. So please take a moment to fill out this survey. This will also be emailed to you, but this survey should not take more than a couple of minutes, and it will help us greatly when we are looking for future speakers and also just making sure that our lineups are curated towards the sectors and the needs that most of our listeners are looking for. We will not host regular FYFFS programming during these summer months, but we do plan to host a special episode featuring hiring managers, hopefully in August, before returning in September officially for season 11 of Finding Your Future in Food Systems. And in the meantime, please be sure to check out our past episodes. All 10 seasons are available on the NAFSN website. You can also find episodes on YouTube and Spotify. And please be sure to also check out our long-form episodes that are also present on our website and will also be posted to YouTube soon. And as always, if you have any suggestions for speakers or areas of the food sector that you would like to see us feature speakers from, please do not hesitate to contact NAFSN leadership or myself directly. This series is hosted for emerging or transitioning food systems professionals, so we want to tailor all of our episodes to best meet your needs and your demands. So please do let us know your thoughts. And finally, to conclude, on behalf of our entire productions team here at NAFSN, including Natalie, Kim, Vivian, Ari, Audrey, Aya, Heba, Wendy, Daniela Durjoy, and myself, as well as our special guest co-host of this episode, Trisha, we thank you so much for being here with us this evening, and we hope to see you again in September for season 11. And until then, we wish you well.
You've been listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems, produced by the North American Food Systems Network. To learn more about our professional development opportunities, visit foodsystemsnetwork.org.